Hi folks, welcome to another beer review, and today we're going over to Wylam out of Newcastle, and this is a can of Untitled, which is an AZACCA and Brew One Pale Ale, clocking in at 4.6% ABV. Actually had this while I was in Newcastle with my good friends and all-round beautiful people, Adam aka Mersey Beers and Harry aka Blue Nose Beer Reviews, and of course got to meet the lovely Jamie as well. Had an absolutely wonderful time in Newcastle, and definitely a place that I have to go again. And yeah, it's one of those things, like, I always have this like existential sadness after I've come back from a city break. Doesn't matter if it's like Newcastle or when I was living in Germany or even spending the night in Manchester or Liverpool. There's just, I don't know, there's like this kind of sadness of the fact that my brief moments of city life come to an end. But without sounding like overly proud, optimistic, the world's my oyster, only I can change that. And yeah, I know people, which is understandable, I know people don't really like that whole city life, hustle and bustle sort of thing, but I don't know, maybe it's the town mouse, Newcastle reference, town mouse in me, that when I get to go to the big city, it's just like, I'd love for this to be my locale. But yeah, had an absolutely wonderful time in Newcastle and got to visit Wylam's tap room, brewery, event space, which seems to be the sort of like main focus, which makes complete sense because it's an absolutely gorgeous venue. Beautiful surroundings. You've got the river. I don't know, there's just something really aesthetically pleasing and satisfying. Great atmosphere, and yeah, Newcastle as a whole was just absolutely wonderful. The only time I've been to Newcastle prior to my recent visit was for my 18th birthday, and yeah, that's nearly, well, it's not far off from being 18 years ago, which is absolutely mental, to think of how much time has elapsed. But I still look like I'm, in my early 20s, so I'll take it, even though I am massively overweight and I'm about as attractive as a piss stain against a wall. But hey ho, it is what it is, and that's my one moment of self-deprecating humour for this video. But anyway, had a wonderful time at Wylam, although what I will say, and this was a really big sort of fly in the ointment for me, even though I don't think that's really the correct piece of terminology to reflect my experience. They didn't have Wylam Gold on tap, and I wasn't able to buy merch. So thankfully, the beers that I did have while I was at Wylam, and also the actual concept in my mind of being at Wylam, a place I've always wanted to visit, but more importantly, the company that I had both Harry, Adam, and Harry's friend Dave, who's a lovely, lovely chap. Yeah, it was just, you could see it as just going to a place for a drink, but for me personally, it just meant a hell of a lot more. And yeah, and I really look forward to my next visit to Wylam and Newcastle in general, because we had some fantastic beers, drank in some really great places, and like I said, most important thing is I was with good people, and that's very hard to find nowadays. So there's a rather sentimental, bittersweet, this is my attempt at being Tony Wilson on So It Goes. Yeah, just highly recommend people go to Newcastle if you haven't done so already. So I did already have this. I don't know if I actually drank it at Wylam or somewhere else in Newcastle. My recollection of ales consumed in specific places is not really up to par, because I've got a terrible memory and I don't use Untappd, which would have been a great point of reference, especially for review purposes. But yeah, anyway, we've got Untitled, and by the way, how awesome is that artwork? Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of what a wall in Italy would have been like in the 1970s, because that imagery there, I'm not too sure where it comes from, but that to me looks like it's ripped straight from like an Italian movie poster, and the aesthetic on this label just very much pleases me greatly. So if anybody knows where that's from, then please do let me know. But yeah, 4.6% ABV, AZACCA and Brew 1. Of course, got the brand appropriate glassware. So let's see what we get with this. Picked this up from Centrails, which is the bottle shop within the train station, which is an absolutely genius idea, and I implore any prospective bottle shop owners to open a bottle shop in a train station, especially in a very popular city, because hashtag train beers, you've got custom, and yeah. So anyway, I digress. Beer in the glass then, and it's a hazy little number. 2 fingers worth of a nice white foamy head, looking very nice in this glass, although not usually the biggest fan of this glass shape, but yeah, lovely Wylam logo. Howie. And I'm not gonna lie, especially with me and Harry, there was a lot of unintentional and unnecessary attempts at doing Geordie accents, especially the legend that is Peter Beardsley, which I will not do in this video because I don't want to insult the wonderful people of Newcastle. There was not one knobhead, which is very refreshing, especially in a city environment. And I think it's one of the very rare occasions where myself, it's one of the very rare occasions where I didn't have a fucking drunken knobhead. And they don't have to be drunken, they just have to be crass as fuck and don't know how to actually be a decent human being with people. I didn't get one Boris Johnson insult or Ed Sheeran insult the whole time I was in Newcastle. So on that alone, Newcastle will forever be in my heart, because it does get very tiresome. If you're a friend and I know you and you make a Boris Johnson comment. I mean, I've had a few Jimmy Savile comments thrown at me. I mean, I didn't know my reputation preceded. I'm only joking. I mean joking. I can't even be funny without sounding like a prick. Yeah, I've had a few Jimmy Savile comments thrown at me because of my appearance, and I really don't. I don't see the whole Jimmy Savile sort of thing. I mean, I don't have a taste for ugly, yet if it wasn't Jimmy Savile, actually quite cool tracksuits. But hey ho, it is what it is. And Newcastle, I thank you so much for not throwing those insults my way. But yeah, if you're a friend and I know you and you make those comments, fair enough, it's funny as fuck. But if you're a stranger, I'm not an aggressive person at all, and in fact I hate confrontation. But if I've had a few drinks and some fucking random knobhead throws the Jimmy Savile stuff, Jimmy Savile, stop saying Jimmy Savile. You've said that too many times in a beer review. In fact, you shouldn't even say it once. Boris Johnson. I'm sure I heard like an alarm. Yeah, but if you're a drunken knobhead and I'm also at the time pissed, then the beast is unleashed. Not that I've ever been in a fight in my life, because I probably get twatted. Anyway, so beer in the glass then, looking very, very nice indeed on the nose. And it's muted, but in a satisfying way. Very welcoming. A little bit of sweetness. Slight sort of citrusy aroma. There's a subtle tropical element to it. Almost like the broth of a fruit salad. Do you call it broth? Very, very nice indeed. Beautiful, beautiful aroma. It smells like a very specific wax melt, but I can't for the life of me think which wax melt it is. And I've always said that candle companies need to get involved with some of the bigger craft breweries. I'm surprised Brewdog hasn't released a range of candles. I know Sierra Nevada have, but I think there's some beautiful aromas within the world of craft beer that would translate perfectly to a scented candle or a wax melt. And speaking of which, this wax melt is going to give it a taste. Cheers. There's a little bit of a dry, savoury character. There's a little bit of like a white grape element to it. For its ABV, it's got a beautiful, beautiful body. I've had like double IPAs that don't have this sort of like pillowy, soft mouthfeel. There's a very distinct flavour on the back end, which I know what it is, but I can't tell you what it is. Which therefore makes this review completely, like my life, null and void. Alright, I did 2 self-deprecating references in this beer review. If you can't take the piss out of yourself, you're just going to be miserable. And I mean, I'm miserable anyway, 3 times. But yeah, just people really need to lighten up in that regard. There's too many people getting overly offended about the most trivial sort of comments and jokes. But I'm not going to get into the whole like Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate sort of territory. I mean, if you can clearly tell, I don't follow their rules of life because I'm still in a shithole of a working class town in my approaching, well, I think I am technically now in my mid-30s. So, you know what I mean. But by the way, Andrew Tate, he's a knobhead. His views and attitudes towards women sicken me. But he does have a rather interesting view on the world and how it's run. But we won't get into that because it's a peer review and that's too heavy. Could make a self-deprecating joke, but I won't do. AZACCA heaviness. Yeah, there's this like sort of like dank. That's the only way I can describe it. Is this dank, musky, grapey character towards the back end. You get a little bit of sweetness on the intake. A little bit sort of sherbety, I'd say. But I tell you what, just one of those like really satisfying to drink beers. Will it make a lot of people's like golden pints list? Probably not. But at the same time, I could see those same people would probably drink this a few times because of just how satisfying it is. So it's got this sort of like understated like quality to it, and just one that you could absolutely cane 4 cans of. You know, it's not overly sweet, it's not really vibrant and in your face with its hoppy characteristics, but it's just a very, very satisfying pale ale. And sometimes that's just exactly what you want. I mean, I'm recording this because I've had a couple of beers up to this point, done a few reviews. I had Troubles earlier on this evening. Now, you know, completely different, you know, beer contextually. That's a triple IPA. Absolutely, you know, throw as many hops as you can throughout the whole brewing process. So completely different animal. But this is just, yeah, it just works. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to blow you away. And I think even Wylam themselves would say this is not their best pale ale that they've brewed this year. I can't really compare it to any other recent Wylam beers because I've not reviewed a Wylam beer for quite a long time, to be honest. And that's sacrilege in itself because they're a damn good brewery. And the Wylam beers that I had while I was in Newcastle were really, really good. They really, really were. But yeah, I think that's just dead good. It's just dead good. Not like mind-blowingly amazing, but far from just another pale ale. Just that sort of like, let's just brew a really good, drinkable, enjoyable beer. No bells and whistles. We won't like, you know, give it a write-up that would, you know, compete with a Winston Churchill speech. And I think beers like this should be celebrated more. But yeah, it's Very, very good. Very, very good indeed. A little bit of like melon character, like honeydew melon maybe, although not as sweet. Yeah, I really, really like that, and I'm going to enjoy the rest of that beer. So that was Untitled from Wylam, which is an AZACCA and Brew 1 Pale, clocking in at 4.6% ABV. Of course, I picked myself up a can of macchiato because that's just a beautiful beer. And yeah, even with the lack of Wylam Gold on my Newcastle trip, because there was nowhere else actually had Wylam Gold on tap. I think that's a beer that you could just, bars, pubs, tap rooms, whatever, should just put orders in for a beer like that, because that's fucking amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I had Jakehead. I can't remember which pub that was in, but I kept referring to it as Jarhead, which I think I've done ever since I've become aware of that beer. I'm trying to think what other beers that I had from Wylam while I was in Newcastle. Can't remember for the life of me what beers that I had while I was in Wylam. I'm sure one of them was like a dark beer of some description. But yeah, don't know what point I was trying. Yeah, Wylam Gold. I thought that'd be like one of those beers that would be really popular and widely available in a lot of establishments in Newcastle, and it probably was. I just didn't see it. But I was genuinely gutted, like really, really gutted that I couldn't have a nice pint of Wylam Gold at Wylam. I'm a man of simple tastes, do you know what I mean? But I would definitely go to Wylam again. So picturesque. The building itself, which I can never remember, was it an art museum or it was called an art museum? Just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And on the inside, oh, just if you like your architecture, and you like your interior design and like inside spaces, interior spaces, then I think Wylam is a massive, box ticker, and highly recommend it. I've used box ticker so many times. Who am I? Raggy. No one compares to Raggy. What a man. But yeah, it was a really good trip. It was sad to leave, and yeah, I think I'm just, even though I don't apply myself, I think I'm very much made for city life. Just to sit at a cafe, bar, tap room, whatever, and just sit and watch the world go by, the hustle and bustle of the streets of a city, and yeah, just city life, man. I mean, the costs of living in the city, I can't even imagine how out of pocket I'd be if I was on the wage I'm on now. But yeah, it's like, had an amazing time, had some really beautiful memories, was spending it with beautiful, amazing people. But you just come back to your local surroundings, and you're just like, fucking hell. Like, literally looking around you like that. It's like, you could have so much more. But that's for me to work out. And I don't want to get too deep, or else I'll start crying. And I'll start thinking of things that I shouldn't think about. And oh my god, I must definitely come across as so disingenuous sometimes. But that's the inner turmoil. That's like the constant existential. Can't say it because I've had a couple of beers. existential crisis that I continue to have. But anyway, Untitled, Wylam, lovely beer, great brewery. And yeah, if you've tried it, let me know your thoughts, opinions down below. 25 minutes, fucking hell, there's TV programmes that don't go on as long as this. But would you rather watch this or an episode of something shit like Friends or Big Bang Theory? I should be the one raking in millions, but maybe if I prise my arse cheeks open. Anyway, that's a thought that nobody needed to have implanted in their brain. Thank you for watching. Go check out Wylam, and yeah, just enjoy any sort of experience that's outside the norm as much as you possibly can. And yes, that does include pegging or analingus. Classy. Bye bye, you take care, and yeah, I don't know how to fucking make myself cringe. Peace.